This is a very short video on what good potting soil looks like. I'll show you the sandier one first. This would be for any kind of cacti or succulent plants, anything that needs to drain quickly. Now, the majority of this is sand. It's probably 2 parts sand and 1 part of a potting soil, and you can see it's very dusty. This is a mix that I've used outside, inside. I will reuse soil, so this isn't a brand new batch that I've mixed up, but this is the consistency that you want for cacti and succulents. I would take regular sharp sand that most garden centers will have sand you can buy for cacti and succulents. And then I would add 1 part of a potting soil that has perlite, and it's a soilless mix that would be mostly made up of, perlite, and I forget what they use. They cut it up. It might be peat moss that they use. I get it from Gardener's Supply, their potting soil, and I would have to have a bag here to see exactly what they put in it. But you can use any basic potting soil that has perlite in it, and the reason I choose a soilless mix is because regular old dirt will carry more pathogens than a soilless mix. So this is your cacti succulent mix. And this is a regular potting soil, but I've added some sand to it. I've got some rocks in there. There's even some old, like leaves and stuff like that. The leaves would just break down and be a nutrient. The perlite is there for drainage. This does have some real dirt in it, as well as a soilless mix of some kind, and a little sand. So it's kind of a mix of a little bit of everything. And I reuse it, like I said. And when you want to pasteurize your soil, you can take either this mix or that mix, and you can place it on a cookie sheet. Put foil on the cookie sheet, and then about a ½ inch layer of this on the cookie sheet, and leave it in your oven at 185 degrees Fahrenheit for about a ½ an hour. And that will pasteurize your soil, and you can reuse it that way without concern that you might have mold in it, or whenever a plant gets any kind of real disease, I don't reuse that soil, because even if you pasteurize it, why take the chance? Dirt is fairly cheap. So, but I do reuse, for example, this may have come from my geraniums. I had many geraniums out for the spring and summer, but then I decided not to winter them over. And the soil was still good. So as I threw the geraniums away, I kept the soil. And then this will be pasteurized, and I can use it again. I grow a few types of cacti, and this is also a good mix to have around, because let's say I decided to grow a geranium today, and I would use mostly this, but I would add some extra sand to the mix for a geranium, because geraniums happen to like well-draining soil. So it depends on the plants that you're planting, but generally this is the mix that you could use for almost anything. So it's a soilless mix that has perlite in it with a little bit of sand in it. This would have, say, 85% everything else and 15% sand, just because sand helps keep it loose, and it helps it in drainage with all kinds of plants.